Ryan, this is Ball State College of Architecture and Planning, MARC, and this is ARCH620. And as we discussed earlier, one of the things that we're working on, or the big thing that we're working on this semester, is coming up with an idea, business idea of some sort. Maybe it's an architecture firm of some sort, maybe it's not. And then working towards understanding what it is, who it serves, which is very pertinent to tonight, obviously, and then getting all the way to the point of pitching a business plan as the final exam. And so our topic for this evening is empathy and understanding the client, which is one of the reasons that, the main reason really, that I reached out to you. So this is ARCH620.
Hey there, ARCH620. How you guys doing?
And for you guys out there, this is Ryan Suydam. And Ryan is the founder or co-founder of Client Savvy?
I am one of the two founders of Client Savvy.
Okay, Ryan studied architecture at NC State. And I know Ryan and some of his other people through, running into each other at conferences around the country. And they're usually there talking about their company and their tools and their services called Client Savvy. And I think I put the URL in tonight's, the guide for tonight. If not, I will put it there, and I'll also put Ryan's contact information there as well. But my version of what Client Savvy does, and you can certainly expand on this, Ryan, is they help, whether it's an architecture firm or some other kind of business, they help these businesses understand their clients better, which is really what we're talking about tonight. So they spent the last hour or so thinking about not only what the purpose of their business is, the people that that their business will, or their idea will serve, but I gave them a little quickie assignment of thinking 30 years down the road and writing a glowing obituary of their company as sort of a creative tool. So, so with that, before we get started with the empathy, what's the term? Empathy model,
Mapping.
Not empathy.
Yep.
Empathy mapping, thank you. What questions do we have for Ryan? One of the challenges of a classroom full of masses is awfully hard to hear.
Yes, I can sit here so you can kind of see who I am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Like a little old lady. I guess one of my questions that I thought of was, and maybe this mapping exercise that we're going to do with you will kind of help explain that, but what's your thought process behind understanding your clients and what seems to work best for you and what seems to work best for them? Is there certain steps that you take, or is it just kind of you get a feel for people and kind of go from there?
That makes sense. Could you hear that, first of all?
I think so. What are the steps that you take for learning how to understand clients? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
I have actually an incredibly short answer to that. 7 magic words. Goes a long way. Any other questions before I start answering?
Anybody else have a question? You go for it, Ryan.
All right. Well, hey, if you're only going to write down one thing tonight, 7 words. Interesting. I wonder why she said that. That is the question that I have found more than anything else drives empathetic thinking and a collaborative approach to conflict resolution than anything else. We got our start. I was actually working in a small architectural firm, 25-person architecture firm, a Phillips Architecture down here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the guy who at the time was my boss, now my business partner, he was just always masterful at understanding people and at seeming to understand what they want and finding ways to get them what they want. And consistently, year after year, I've worked with the guy for 21 years. His firm for 21 years has been in the top 1% in the country for profitability. And now that we have this measurement process in place, we've done for the last 17 years, year after year in the top 1% for client satisfaction. So this is a group, clients absolutely love them. And they pay well above market for the service. And they do great design work. They're good designers. They get to do fun projects. They get to pick what clients they have. They actually spent the last 5 years pruning their client list to choose who they wanted to work with and what kinds of projects they wanted to do, because they were fun, they were satisfying, they filled their soul, it served their mission as an organization, but they did so very profitably and did so in a way that created real delight with their clients. And that came from really understanding them. Jeff and I spoke earlier today before coming on here, just so I can get a sense of what this class was. And one of my favorite quotes is from Henry Ford. And he said, if I had asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And your clients, as smart as they are, and they are very intelligent people, don't really know what they need. So when they say something, whether it's a complaint, whether it's a request, whether it's they're issuing a request for a proposal and it details exactly what they want the scope of their project to be, our job is to ask ourselves, interesting, I wonder why they said that. Why are they asking for this? Because if we understand the why behind their ask, we can get in the business of actually meeting their needs rather than responding to their wants. And that's a huge, huge differentiator. Huge differentiator. It's a fundamental shift in thinking. And it's wisdom I will share with you, young people. I've been married 21 years. When my wife gives me some very loud feedback every now and then. And you have masks on. I can't see if you're smiling. This is terrible. The jokes just don't land without the smiles.
Laughing.
Yeah, good. You know, as a younger man, when I was your age, I got married at 20. I've been married a long time, and you know, it's been a great life. But in my early days, before I really started researching and understanding empathy, I'd hear something sometimes from my wife or from someone who was really close and important to me, and you know, even if it was sounded angry, even if it sounded mean, you get defensive, you get angry back, you get hurt. All these things just well up in you, and it's a battle we face as people. And when you start shifting the mindset to, all right, whatever he or she just said isn't about them, it's about me. Or it's not about me, it's about them. Whatever loud argument or complaint or mean words were just said is really something about her, not something about me. And I asked myself, interesting, I wonder why she said that. Why did she say that? And as you seek to understand and you uncover and where the anxieties or the frustrations or everything else comes from, you replace anxiety with curiosity. You replace anger with empathy. And it's fascinating what it does. And you know, my mom still doesn't believe I'm the guy that gets paid to teach people empathy, because it's not a skill I was born with, I assure you. But it is a skill that I do believe can be practiced. And when you practice it, when you implement it, when you institutionalize it in your life, it really changes who you are and how you look at the world. That's really what we're going to talk about today is we're going to search the heart just a little bit. So let me share my screen. And it looks like, Jeff, you have disabled screen sharing. So you're going to have to press a button or two to let me do that. And let me, there we go. I got it. Perfect. All right. So you guys still able to see my screen over here? Fantastic. We'll move through this pretty quickly. I do have an exercise I want you to get your hands on so you can really experience this. But let me give you a couple of foundations. And all of this is in that Mural link. You can download a white paper. It's got all this in it, the graphics, all the toolkits. They're all in here for you. Why do clients choose you? Why do clients choose you? There's 16,000 architecture firms in the United States, and someone's got to pick you out of the other 16,000, right? Why do clients choose you? Anyone want to hazard a guess?
Go ahead. Because they trust you.
Trust, absolutely. What else?
Somebody else referred them to you.
Someone else trusts you and I trust them, so I'm going to give you my trust because someone I trust trusts you. You're absolutely right. That is very powerful. What else?
We have shared values.
Shared values. Good one. One of the biggest compliments I ever got from one of my clients, I asked him for some feedback and he said, I really feel like your core values are perfectly aligned with our core values. And boy, that's a powerful statement. What else? So these are all great answers, and you guys got into some better answers and seasoned professionals I usually hear. Well, oftentimes I'll, because we're a multidisciplinary firm, we've got all the experience in the world, we're the best designers, all these things, and there are times and places those can be differentiators in your business. But at the end of the day, clients choose you because they like you. They think you're the best person to meet their needs. They think you understand with them and align with them better than anybody else. It's not like, Spectrum or Comcast where you've only got one option for high-speed internet and you're just stuck with it and you suffer through it. There's plenty of options for architects. So I'm going to choose the firm, I'm going to choose the designer or the professional who understands me most and makes me feel good about my decisions, makes me feel good about the work and the outcome, and they're probably competent designers too. So a lot of the questions I hear is, our target is satisfied customers. We have high quality, we're on time, we're accurate, competitive prices. And if what makes you different as an architect can be found on the back of a delivery truck, then I'm going to argue you are no different than anybody else. If your core values are on time and quality and accurate and competitive prices, you're really getting lost in the weeds with everybody else. So how do we become a little bit different? So let me just pose a question here. This is a Ferrari. It's about a $300,000 vehicle. So what's being sold? And don't say car because that is not the right answer. What's being sold here?
Lifestyle.
A lifestyle. What else? It's a great answer.
Speed.
Speed. What else is being sold?
The brand.
A dream, a brand. Good answers. Any others? Value. What was that?
Design.
Design. And I'm going to say all of your answers can kind of roll up into a bigger topic. What's being sold is an experience. When you look at a beautiful car, if you're a car person, I'm a car person, I love cars. If you look at a beautiful car and you just, look at that. It is sex on four wheels. I mean, that is just gorgeous. I mean, that is a visceral, emotional experience that you have. And if you've never had the pleasure of driving behind a Ferrari, I've never driven one or been in one, but I've driven behind a few, and they step on that gas pedal and that naturally aspirated V8 roars, and it just screams up to 9,000 RPM. It's like, that is just a beautiful sound. I mean, you're living an experience. Or maybe you're driving it down Rodeo Drive or along the beach in Miami or wherever you are, and people are turning their heads and looking at you, and you just feel on top of the world because people are looking at you. That's an experience. Speed, you know, I race my cars. I love to race. I love speed. It's not about going fast. It's the adrenaline. It's the experience of going fast. What's being sold is an experience. And that's why it can sell for 10 times more, 20 times more what a normal car might sell for. Razors. It's about as boring as it gets, right? I mean, how exciting can a razor be? And I was at a customer experience conference, and I met someone from Dollar Shave Club. And his name badge said he was the director of the unboxing experience. And so we introduced ourselves, and I kind of laughed in a friendly way. I'm like, director of the unboxing experience, that's a full-time job? He goes, full-time job? I've got 6 full-time people working for me. What the hell do you mean? Why does it take 7 people to like box? And he goes, have you ever seen our commercials? Like, no, but you know about us. Yeah, well, why? Because we make our boxes so memorable. We make the experience of opening this box so compelling that people take pictures of their toiletries and post it on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and that's how word gets out. Our entire marketing team is focused on the box. That's it. That's all we do. We focus on the box. Wow. The experience of opening the box is different. And they got sold a year and a half ago for 18 times their gross revenue, not their profit, but 18 times their gross revenue to Unilever. Now, if you grow up one day and start an architecture firm and sell it, you're lucky if you can sell it for 5 times your net profit, much less 10 to 18 times your gross revenue. It's a massively successful business as a result of it. Now, I've seen so many architecture firms. I've worked in architecture firms, and they'll spend $75,000, $250,000, $2 million on a beautiful design. And you know what they do? They print it out on D-size sheets, and they roll it up and put 3 rubber bands around it, and they bring it to a client meeting like, ta-da, here you go. Where's the experience in that? I mean, this is a moment to be celebrated. Here's the design. And there's no experience. And so it feels commodity. It feels generic. So why do we want to create experiences for clients? Why does it matter that we understand them so that we can create compelling experiences? Well, because your clients will stay longer. They like doing business with you. They will come back time and time again. It costs 5 times more to get a new client than to serve an existing client. It's very expensive and very difficult to find new clients. If you have happy clients, if you have engaged clients, they buy more from you. If you can help them in one way, you can help them in other ways. They can't wait to tell their friends and peers about you. They'll bring you new clients because it makes you look good. Think about it. You go out somewhere, you have a great meal, you tell people about it. Why? Well, there's all this psychology around why people make those referrals, and don't have time to get into it today, but there's some deep psychological drivers in that behavior. And we want to tap into those drivers with our clients so that they do stick around, so that they do buy more, and so that they tell everybody you should be buying from your architecture firm. Happy clients are easier to serve. You get fewer frustrations and surprises. And happy clients means happy staff. You know what? If you want to love your job every day as an architect, take great, amazing care of your clients. If you want to feel like it's a slog, if you really want to hate your life as an architect, don't care about the clients. Focus in on the design, be a great technician, and you're going to have clients angry, frustrated. You're going to spend all your time putting out fires and trying to get people not mad at you. Lean in on the clients. Focus on them first, and you're going to have delightful, happy moments in between taking care of clients where you get to design. So you know, what are your goals? I mean, you've got a final project here. Normally, I'm doing this with a bunch of professionals. What are your goals? You want to be an architect. You want to do some great stuff. You want to, solve social justice with better urban design, or create more sustainable futures with a lower carbon footprint on the planet. There's some really good reasons to be passionate about what you do as designers. I mean, you impact the world more than almost any other profession. And you're better able to do that when you're helping individuals with what they care about most, with what matters most to them. So we're going to talk about empathy. You can't take care of somebody if you don't understand them, if you don't understand how they're wired, what drives them, what makes them click, what they care about. And empathy, I don't want to stereotype, but I will say, in my experience working with architects, engineers, lawyers, constructors, working with these professional service providers, we are great technicians. We're great artists. We're great designers. We're very competent and capable at assembling complex solutions to complex problems. As a type, we don't tend to be very high on empathy. We have a lot more ego and a lot less empathy as a type than the general population. So it's a skill that needs to be nurtured and developed to overcome some of the other things that make us good at what we do, but create some stumbling blocks for us along the way. So we're gonna shift into the mural exercise. If you guys have your laptops open, that's great. Now is a good time for us to jump in, and I'm gonna skip the slides and just start talking you through how some of these tools work. So I'm going to do something in Mural called summon everybody. So you're all going to now see what I'm seeing. And this is an example persona. You can't empathize with someone if you don't know who you are trying to empathize with. And marketing is a big proponent of using personas. Persona-based marketing is a very important way to reach out and communicate to people. If you're an executive at Coca-Cola or Apple or Nike or any of these other brands, and any brand that you buy, if you're wearing a brand, if you're carrying a brand in your pocket, I guarantee you that you are in a persona in some marketing department somewhere, and they thoroughly understand you and the 280 other thousand people on the planet that are just like you, and that's how they reach you. That's how they connect with you, is by understanding this type, this persona. So this is a real persona. This is actually one of my clients. So his name is Gil. He's the adventurous CEO. He's a senior partner at an engineering firm, a CEO. Second level leaders report directly to him, so we're kind of understanding his role. He sets and drives the vision. He's a collaborative leader. He creates focus on specific directives, but he's not really a big execution guy. He's the one who he sets the course and organizes the teams and then turns them loose to go do it. What are his goals? What's he trying to accomplish? What's his why? Well, his why, he's a second generation leader. He's the first CEO that's not one of the founding partners, and he wants to leave the company in better shape than when he took over the helm. He's got some ego on the line. There's emotion in here, right? He wants to provide good profit sharing bonuses to the staff because he used to be staff and he loved getting bonuses, and he wants to make sure he's taking care of the people. What do we know about him in his personal life over here? Age, salary, education, lifestyle. What do we know about the company? 500 person, strong regional presence. They want to grow. They're above average financially. They're really organized with things like training and technology and some of those other things. A lot of firms really lag in those. What are Gil's challenges? What's hard about his day-to-day? What's he fighting with all the time? Most AE firms, architecture firms, engineering firms, there's very few professional leaders. They might sit through a class kind of like you're sitting, maybe 20 years ago, and they're not MBAs, they're not trained professionally in how to run a business. They're architects who just kind of got old and didn't screw up enough, and people kind of like them. So, ta-da, I'm a leader. Um, and now I'm running a firm. So we don't have professional leaders. We don't really know what our clients are thinking. Trying to manage a bunch of engineers is like herding cats. Engineers, architects, very independent thinkers. They don't like following rules and processes. They like creativity. So these are very difficult things he's facing. What does he value? Where does he spend his time? Read his news? Where does he hang out? How does he make his decisions? He's a persuasive, collaborative. Yeah, he's a CEO. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's got the authority, but he knows, leadership is based on the voluntary followership of the staff, especially in professional services. If someone's working at Amazon or Apple, doesn't like the labor practices, doesn't like the way it feels working there, they think they can do it better. You can't just go across the street and start a new Amazon or a new Apple. The capital required, the infrastructure, the barriers to entry are huge. I had a client get purchased by a global firm, so a 200-person company got bought by a 10,000-person company. And 80 of the staff said, screw this, we don't want to work at a big company. They literally walked across the street a month later and opened up a competing firm and took half the clients with them. Leadership is a tenuous grasp in professional services because it's really kind of easy to go out and start your own thing. So Gil's got to make decisions in a collaborative way. He's got to make sure he's got buy-in. Just because he can doesn't mean he really can. So now we start understanding Gil. And when we understand Gil, now we can market to him. We can sell to him. We can support him in different ways. If I know that his process of deciding to hire client savvy means, it's going to be collaborative, I can't just sell to Gil. I've got to get his lieutenants on board. I've got to sell to the whole second level leadership in the company. If I know that he has a hard time managing his engineers and getting them to follow process, we've got to have ways to solve that for him. Otherwise, whatever we sell him is never going to work because he's never going to get anyone to get it done. So that's what goes into a persona. So think about your imaginary ideal client. What would a perfect client be? And we'll name the perfect client Joe for right now. So here's where I want you guys to jump in, and we'll let this first piece be a little bit of a free-for-all. We'll see how this works. The next phase, we're going to get a little more organized. There's 9 boxes here: role, goals, personal, company, challenges, values, hangouts, and decision-making. So if you take your mouse and you hover over one of these little colored squares, if you double-click, you open up the square and you can start typing. So mouse over one that no one else is mousing over, double click, and just fill out something in this persona, whatever is kind of exciting to you. Let's invent Joe as a class. So double click somewhere and just start typing. And all of you will get to see this persona build in real time. See, someone's working on a goal, someone's working on decision making. If you accidentally move something, don't worry about it. That can be a bit messy. We're not too worried about everything lining up. So once you're done typing, you can just click out, and then everyone will get to see what you've typed. So Davis, I see that Joe is getting his news from Fox. That probably tells us a whole lot. All of a sudden, there's a big difference between a Fox News person and a CNBC kind of person. So it tells us something. I'm not going to judge. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it tells us something. So see, he's in his mid-40s, values, believes in community, loves his family and his friends, got 2 dogs. He's a very processed and orderly decision maker. Time management is a challenge, so that's interesting. You're a processed, orderly person, but maybe books his days too full. So he struggles with time management, coaches kids' soccer teams, all right? So Joe's a project manager. Joe's an interesting guy who values both science and religion. I'm not saying those are in conflict, but it's a smaller piece of the puzzle. Neat stuff here. All right.
Joe needs some goals.
One of his challenges is no goals. Take over the world. All right.
Joe's the lost member of Pinky in the Brain.
All right. So as this picture of Joe is coming up, and we're all just kind of spitballing stuff, so Joe's maybe a little bit of a fractured persona because we're just making things up here. So Joe is Elon Musk. Okay. Elon Musk, who found religion and watches Fox News. That's a very interesting combination here.
Plumbing.
What was that?
Plumbing. He runs the plumbing.
Can't wait to get to Mars and build the first interplanetary bathroom. That is a noble pursuit. Noble pursuit. So I think it's kind of a crappy one personally, but I'm here all week, guys. We're starting to kind of get a picture of Joe here, and again, because we're not basing this persona on a real person, I recommend when you're working on the ideal buyer of your services, whatever business you're going to invent, whether it's an architecture business or anything else, when you're getting that ideal buyer, that ideal client in your head, think about who do you know in real life that's closest to that buyer. And maybe it's 2 or 3 people and you're creating some kind of a hybrid. It's really going to help you create this persona. And the reason why you do the persona is if Joe is actually a real person and you custom tailor your business so much for a real individual person, your business is going to be perfect for one and only one person. It's a really good way to get Joe's business and a very fantastic way to limit your market appeal. So think about Joe as a type and find a real person or a couple of real people and see if you can't blend them together to come up with a type. Here's a type of buyer. Any sustainable business is usually going to have a handful of personas that represent their core business. The Pareto principle comes in very real here. 20% of your personas are going to do 80% of your business. So if you've got 10 different types of people who buy your services, 2 types are going to buy 80% of your revenue, and then everyone else is going to be kind of a fringe. So you don't have to be all things to all people. Focus in on where the core of your business is. As a rule in the industry, your top 20% of clients, if you have 100 clients, your top 20 are going to generate usually 70 to 80% of your revenue. So it's important, especially to think through who are the types that are most impactful to our business and understand them very well. All right. Any questions about doing a persona, building a persona? This is normally a 3-hour workshop and we're just like rolling through here in an hour. So if I'm moving quickly, yes, I absolutely am. Any questions about personas?
Anybody? Here's one. Go ahead.
Are there websites with kind of prescribed demographic types?
Not for architecture. That would be great. The best you'll find, there are some market research studies that you can find. The AIA has some, a Deltec, a PSMJ. There's a few others that are pretty solid at reporting on market segments. And a lot of people confuse market segments with buyer personas. Just because someone is a department level manager at a federal agency doesn't mean all department level managers at federal agencies are the same persona. So, God, if life was that easy, boy, it would be simple. In this mural exercise, you will see there is a white paper over here, and you should be able to download. I think that's actually the one-page preview, but you see down here, this is actually a PDF. So you can actually, you should be able to, I think if you double click it, it'll open up the PDF and then you can save it. So I've got a whole like 8-page white paper on this whole process, checklist, everything. I know it's kind of easy to move stuff around. If you hold down the space bar when you click and drag, that prevents you from moving stuff accidentally. That should have been locked, but I can't lock it and then let you double click to open it. So,
Ryan, just as a for instance, we're talking about the idea of finding personas online or whatever. If we take the example of Joe there, because he is the persona, and like you mentioned, the government employee, whatever all your different qualifiers were for that particular persona that you'd mentioned. If you take Joe as a for instance, and you change, let's say you go down and you change mid-40s single dad coaches his kid's soccer team to mid-30s married dad who has daughters in ballet, and you change Fox News to CNBC, and you change, one other thing. Think about, I'm just picking and choosing little squares. All of a sudden, you have a very, very different person.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Even just, I see both science and religion up here. You do Fox News and religion versus CNBC and science. We're just playing stereotypes here, but that's really kind of what a persona is. It's a stereotype of people we all kind of know. And we've got both on our Facebook feed, and immediately associations come to your mind. So what we need to be careful of is that we don't put a persona in such a tight box and just kind of hold our nose and say, we don't like that kind of person. This isn't about making a value judgment on somebody. This is about understanding somebody. My favorite book of all time is a book called Ender's Game. Anyone ever read Ender's Game? Anyone? No?
Yeah, a few people nodding. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. There's a radical statement in there as the young hero is destroying yet another enemy. And he says, in order to defeat an enemy, first you must completely understand them. And in order to understand, once you understand them, you come to love them. When you really understand, think about someone who is kind of polar opposite of you, whether it's in politics or religion or style or tone or whatever. When you really get to understand, interesting. I wonder why she said that. Interesting. I wonder why he thinks that way. When you let your guard down and you bring yourself into that person's mind and understand them, you kind of develop some affection for them. And it's just natural. So what we're doing here isn't to let us, judge people. What we're doing here is letting us understand people. And through that understanding, we develop empathy. And through that empathy, we develop respect. And over time, that respect can even turn into affection. And that's powerful when you have affection for your clients. When you really, truly like the people who hire you, not just because they pay your bills, but because you like them and you treat them in such a way that they develop affection for you and they like who they are when they're around you. That's a powerful statement. Think about, just take a moment. Who is somebody in your life that when you're around them, you like who you are better? Do you have someone like that in your life? I really hope you do. What a powerful gift that is to give to somebody. When I'm around you, I feel like a better version of myself. When I'm around you, I'm happier. I'm more centered. I am better. That might sound ambitious to do for a client, but that's ultimately what the goal is in all human relationships. We want the people around us to like who they are when they're around us. And that's what empathy enables us to do. And if I like who I am when I'm around you, if I like who I am when I'm driving down the street in my pretend Ferrari, I'm going to keep on buying Ferraris because I like who I am by association. All right. We're going to move into the actual empathy exercise here. So we're kind of mapping out Joe. So he's the science plus religion, Fox News guy. He's very processed and orderly, sucks at time management, difficult time with technology, wants to take over the world and build toilets on Mars, but he's maybe a little busy coaching his kids in soccer. So that's Joe. All right. That's what we know about Joe. And I need... Jeff, do we have a full cohort today of 12 or 13 people?
We have 13.
13. And have you divided into the 6 groups yet?
No, but we could, let's see. I think we got 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 7. If you want to move back a row, then we'll have 6 rows.
All right. So row 1, what I want you to do is get your mouse and I want you to hover over questions and entice. I want you over that part of the grid. Row 2, I want you at needs in the entice column. Row 3, I want you at thinking. Row 4, I want you at feeling. Row 5, I want you at saying. And row 6, I want you at doing. So we're going to work in teams here. Now, we're going to talk about the client journey. And the client journey happens in the 5 columns. The client journey has 5 major phases. Entice. There is a day I wake up and I don't need architecture services. And then one day I wake up and I discover I need architecture services. And that day that I discover I need architectural services, at some point, your brand, your company is going to come into my mind. If your company never comes into my mind, then I'm never going to buy from you because I don't know about you. So I'm going to Google search. I'm going to ask a friend. I'm going to do something to where I encounter your existence. Maybe I already knew about it from something in the past. It's kind of how Jeff got me here today. There was a last minute cancellation and Jeff thinks in his mind, who do I know that's in this weird intersection of empathy and architecture? That would be Ryan. So he went through that entice phase. Enter is when a conversation starts. The minute Jeff reached out to me and said, hey, Ryan, I got this situation here tomorrow night. You think you could help me with that? And we're engaging in dialogue. We're talking. We're trying to agree. Are we going to work together? That's the enter phase. So from the moment we start actively interacting until we sign a contract or agree to work, we're in the enter phase. Engage. Well, guess what, guys? We're engaging right now. Engage is from the project start to the project end. That's where we're doing the architectural project. Exit. That's what happens at the end of a project. We're closing it out, our final deliverables, we're sending the invoice, all the things it takes to wrap up a project. And then extend is what happens in the mind after the interaction is done. So we're going to exit in about 17 minutes tonight. We're going to experience the exit. And then extend is what is the lasting impression that somehow, some way Ryan left in your mind? When does this stuff come back into your brain? And do we interact again? I already told Jeff, you guys are all welcome. I love helping people through this stuff. I love investing in young people. I've got 4 kids of my own. I am passionate about this. So if any of you want help or just someone to talk to or brainstorm ideas about your project, feel free to reach out. My contact information is all over the place. I'm easy to find. I'm more than happy to give you some time. So that's kind of the extend phase of the relationship, right? So we're going to do entice and we're going to do engage. Is all we have time for today. So for right now, we're going to do Entice. And during this Entice phase, this is before your clients ever talk to you. All right, this is kind of, what's happening for you to draw them to you, how they're discovering you, what's going on in their brain before and during discovering who your business is. What questions do they have? What needs do they have? And then what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What are they saying? And what are they doing? And rows 3, 4, 5, and 6, a little bit harder for you here, because if I'm thinking something, I'm thinking that because. So everything you write, I want you to have the word because in your answer. Am I feeling frustrated? Okay, I guess that's good to know. But Joe is feeling frustrated because he can't get this damn website to work because he has technology woes, right? Now we can understand. If we understand why he's feeling what he's feeling, we might develop some action out of that. So let's just take 2 or 3 minutes. I know there's 9 boxes. We don't have to fill them all out. But as team, just take a couple of minutes and see if you can't get a 2 or 3 boxes filled out. And we'll do a quick recap on this.
I know what box you're supposed to be in.
So if there's any questions, Jeff, you can certainly route people my way. You can also just type your question in the mural, and I can read it as you type it.
So what needs is
So the questions group here, you've got what does he need? This is the question Joe is asking himself. So maybe it's what do I need? Sometimes it's a buyer, you don't even know what you need. I just put a Honda engine in my Toyota car because I raced it and the Honda engine is better, but the Toyota car is better. I've never done that before. I didn't even know what I needed. And so as I was doing the research, my real question was, what do I even need? How do I do this?
So are we providing Joe the service or is providing the service?
so Ryan, the way they're framing this is that Joe needs their services, right? Joe
needs their services, right?
Okay.
So Joe needs an office for his plumbing company. That's a great need. It's very clear and articulate. Joe wakes up one day and says, you know what? I know I need an office. Joe knows he needs hand-holding. That's a great, great insight. Joe needs direction because he doesn't know how to do this. He knows plumbing left and right, but he doesn't know how to go about building an office. It's really good. So up here in the questions, what services are provided? Well, I don't really know what I need. I need some hand holding. But what services am I going to need in order to design and build a plumbing company? So let's think about that for a moment. And if any ideas come up to your brain, go down to the bottom of the column. There's a row called actions. While the first 6 rows are all about Joe, action, that's about your business. So let's think about this for a minute. This is where we go from empathy to action, right? So what we've learned here, Joe needs hand-holding. He needs direction on how to get there. He needs that in order to get an office or his plumbing company. But he doesn't even know what services he needs, much less what services you provide. So how would we synthesize that together? What's an action we could take as a business to meet Joe where he is right now? Oh, I was hoping that was a raised hand. It looked like it was just a sweater stretch. Is there a raised hand? Any ideas? Oh, I see someone typing in one. What do we have? Joe. So we could develop relationships with consultants to provide future design services for a client. Yep. Developing relationships with consultants that Joe works with. Maybe that's one way he can come to find out who we are. What else is something we could do for Joe to meet this unique need of, he doesn't even know what he needs. Let me try one on for size. You guys are young. Go look up 10 architecture firms in your area. Go to their websites. And I guarantee you're going to see a list of services. 10 out of 10 are going to list the services they provide. How many of those websites tell Joe what services he's going to need? So do you see what's happening here? Joe knows he needs an office. He doesn't know what services he needs. And he keeps going to these architects' websites and okay, they do these 12 things and they do these 7 things, and maybe 12 is better than 7. I don't know. Maybe I need 11 of the 12 and there's a 13th thing I need, but they don't do it. I don't even know what I need. So what empathy can do here is when we're building our website for a company, do we list all the cool things we do? Or do we list the things that Joe needs? And you see how that just kind of flips the equation? It changes the dynamic of how we build a website, of how we communicate our value proposition to the marketplace. Let's look at feeling. I'm feeling discouraged because there's so many different ways to go about design. Well, yeah, because I keep going to websites and it's just listing all these things that they do, but nothing's telling me how to get done what I need to get done. I'm discouraged. I'm feeling lost. I don't know where to start. And so he says, screw this. I just need to sell my business and get a summer home on Mars. Right? What's he doing? Well, I'm frustrated. I'm losing sleep, so I'm drinking more coffee than usual. You can start building a whole narrative around what Joe is doing. And guys, if you want to win Joe's business, there's the path. There's the secret. You do this, you address Joe where he is when the other 10 architecture firms aren't. Guess who Joe's going to call first? Yeah, trying to contact the Space Force, become their official plumbing contractor. Exactly. Good stuff, guys. You're speaking my language. I love sarcasm and goofiness and silliness. Life is too damn short not to have some fun doing this. So amidst the fun, I hope we are learning some things. But while this is here, go through the mental exercise. All right. If Joe is trying to contact the Space Force to become their official plumbing contractor, if that's, a persona that exists, this is probably a one-size-fits-one, so maybe you make the business decision not to invest in it. But let's just say this was a common thing plumbing contractors are trying to do. Now that you've identified this as a thing Joe is doing, what could you do to help Joe do that better? So Gil, the persona we were talking about earlier, he runs an engineering firm that does a lot of water and wastewater in like the rural Midwest for towns of, 800 to 5,000 people. You know what towns of 800 to 5,000 people don't have? Money. You know what a wastewater plant costs? Lots and lots of money. So you know what they do? They have a dozen people on staff whose sole job is to visit these rural towns, assess the state of the infrastructure, and then go apply for grants. And they do it all free. And they go and they secure grant money for the town. So the town now has 50, 70, 80, maybe even 100% of the cost of the project funded. And guess who they hired to design the wastewater plant? I mean, that's a radically different business model. They're actually creating work that would not exist otherwise because they're helping a client with the need that other firms just don't connect with. Other firms just don't see the need. Or they're waiting on a town to find money and then come hire them. Meanwhile, this company's out there finding money for the towns. It's an amazing win-win relationship. So let's take a minute. Everybody move to the engage column and then move down. So row 1, you were doing entice and questions. Now I want you doing engage and needs. Okay, so everybody move 2 columns right, move 1 row down, and that means the group that was doing, you're now up at the top at questions. So we're in the engage column. You're an architect. You're delivering your services to Joe. You're in the thick of it. He's already hired you. You're working through the project. You're reviewing designs. You're having meetings. You're creating documents. You're applying for permits. You know, you got all this stuff going on. So what questions does Joe have? What needs does he have? What's he thinking? What's he feeling? Let's brainstorm a little bit here. So I see questions like, how much is this really going to cost? How long is this going to take? I mean, he probably already has a budget and a schedule, probably did that before hiring you. But you know what? Is this starting to feel expensive? Oh no. Feels like some things are, you know, they're not answering my questions right away. Maybe they're overworked. Maybe they're not going to meet my deadline. Interesting. What do I need? Money for my space plumbing business. And so, damn it, every dollar you charge me for design is one less dollar I have for my space plumbing business. See how some of this creative tension comes in there? You're doing great work for Joe. You're providing value. He can't do his plumbing business without a place to operate his business, but he's not in the business of buying space. He's in the business of space poop. And every dollar he spends on design and space is a dollar he doesn't get to invest in space poop. So boy, that's interesting, you know? A little bit different with architects. I love this joke with engineers. No one wakes up and says, today is the day I get to hire an engineer. And I showed that Ferrari earlier. There is a day when a 40-year-old man wakes up and says, today's the day I get to buy a Ferrari. Today's the day I get that dream I've been dreaming about since I was a 10-year-old boy. We don't have that with our clients. You know, some, aspire to some great architectural project and they can't wait to hire an architect one day. But most architects are hired for much more mundane purposes. People didn't wake up thinking today's the day I get to hire an architect. So they have to have you, which means you're taking money from me to do something I have to have, not to do something I want to do. That's a tough thing to process. Boy, they're asking me questions I didn't know I needed to ask. Do we need to value engineer everything? I want to move in sooner. They're being so helpful. Why are they being so helpful? Why is he thinking this? What's driving this thought process? What's driving the thought to move in sooner? When you connect with the why, this is where that word because is so important. Every one of these questions needs a because on it, or every one of these thinkings needs a because on it. I want to move in sooner because a competitor is moving into my market and I don't want to let them get a foothold before I can get in the door. I want to move in sooner because, something else is going on. I want to move in sooner because soccer season starts in March. And if I'm not in by March, then I'm not going to have the time to manage the move because I'm going to be busy. I'll miss my kids' soccer games. You see the emotional conflicts that start coming up in here? I'm overwhelmed with all this new information. I want to have the best coffee shop on Mars. What am I doing? I'm investing more time in his kids while the project's underway. Because those architects are just they've got so much of my trust, I can go to soccer practice and I don't have to worry about this project. Versus this project is taking so much time away, I have to skip soccer practice because those damn architects need to be managed. That's what empathy is starting to do for you here. It's starting to let you lean in and figure out, how do we help those positive reactions happen, and what can we do to avoid the negative reactions? So I know we're at the hour here. Like I said, this is a 3-hour workshop. You guys were rock stars. You got a lot done in an hour. That was really pretty incredible. I can say I have not seen a room of seasoned industry veterans accomplish what you guys accomplished so quickly. So congratulations. I love the beginner's mind. It's just so free and so fast. And I hope you hold on to that as you go into business for yourselves. Jeff, I'll pass this over to you. I don't have any particularly wise closing statements, but I'm happy to stick around and converse or answer any questions. And again, just be a resource for you guys in any way I can.
Yeah, well, first, Ryan, thank you very much. It was a great exercise. It was fun, got a lot of laughs. I agree. You probably have not worked with a group of seasoned professionals that made it to Mars in an hour, and we accomplished that. So, what questions do you have for Ryan? Anyone? Go ahead.
Businesses that he works with, what do they struggle the most with?
Jeff, can you repeat that one for me, please?
The businesses that you work with, what do they struggle the most with?
Oh, I've got a list of the 23 problems that architecture businesses struggle with the most, and I'm happy to share it with you. That's a real big it depends. Before COVID, about the 5 years prior, it was absolutely finding and retaining talent. Firms had more work than they could handle. They didn't have enough staff. And so we spent a lot of time doing empathy with employees. How do you really understand your employees to keep them around and attract them? The industry chronically suffers from commoditization. All architects look the same to me. There's a handful of starchitects that are on the cover of the magazines. You know, there's 16 architecture firms that can all name by name because they're the stars. Then there's the other 16,000 that are just architects. You know, think about going to the doctor. Have you technically evaluated the proficiency of your doctor? Do you know your doctor's patient's life expectancy? Do you know your doctor's patient's rate of obesity or heart attack or cancer? You've done nothing to evaluate how good your doctor is. In fact, your doctor could be the worst doctor in the state of Indiana. But you walk in the door and you see the licensure by the state and you see the certificate from Harvard or wherever, and you assume he can doctor. And same thing, your clients walk into your architecture firm and they assume she can architect. So a differentiation is really, really big. A lot of stuff we talked about. You build a successful firm, you got 50 architects working for you, and 50 architects want to do things 50 different ways. And yet you can go into any Starbucks anywhere on the planet and you're going to have a very consistent and predictable experience. You go into one architecture firm in one city and there's 50 different architects and you do 3 projects with 3 different architects, you're going to have 3 very different experiences. It's hard to build brand loyalty when that's what your experience is. So chronic low profitability, waste, getting paid. The classic joke is the hardest things in architect are finding the work, doing the work, and getting paid for the work. And really the hardest is getting paid for the work. So that's a long answer. I do have a white paper on the 23 top problems. It's like 2 pages. It's nice and short. If you want it, happy to share it with you. Any other questions?
What else? Anybody else? Questions? Directions to Mars?
Can I ask just to run in the back?
Go ahead. Please.
Still trying to frame my question, but
He's going to think about it for a minute.
Great. Can I ask you for some feedback? What were the key takeaways? This is probably newer information for you than my typical audience. I remember I boldly went to career day for my kids, and I had 4 kids in the elementary school, so 5th grade wasn't bad. But by the time the kindergarten class came through, trying to explain what the hell I did to a bunch of 5-year-olds when they don't understand business or profit or clients, it was really, really, really interesting trying to make my message very clear. So I'd love to hear from you. What did you hear as the key takeaways from this? What made a difference in your learning and maybe your career path?
We'll just use this as our normal video wrap up. So what are your big takeaways from tonight?
Oh. Sorry, Jeff, didn't mean to.
No, it's a great segue. It's awesome. Big key takeaways. Anybody? Go ahead.
I think maybe one of the biggest takeaways was viewing the engagement between a business and a client is how that client is experiencing you as a business. And I just think there's a lot of value in that, or it could be the opposite of value, it could hurt you if that experience is bad. So to me, that was a pretty big takeaway.
Could you hear that?
I did, and I am so glad that was one of the key takeaways. That was absolutely one of the most important points I wanted to share with you. So I'm glad that was heard.
Anybody else? Big takeaways. Anyone?
Understanding the why behind the ask, the essence of the problem rather than providing solution to the basic problem. Faster horse instead of car.
You hear that?
I did. The why behind the ask. Really learning to understand what your clients' needs are, because they often don't know how to tell you what they really need. I've heard it said the customer is always right. I'll say the customer is usually almost right, and they need help learning how to be right.
That's good. Go ahead.
I like that you said successful companies have a couple different client personas that they work off of. I think it's really easy to get stuck into thinking you have one ideal client.
Right. Absolutely. And it is good to be diversified. You never know when a global pandemic is going to dramatically disrupt the world, and being in multiple markets, multiple segments, having different types of buyers. If your buyer is a very low risk, high anxiety buyer, they're not going to buy when times are uncertain. That's going to be a very recession sensitive business. It's good to balance your portfolio to have some good risk takers and opportunists along with your more conservative buyers.
Another hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like the point of you can't take care of the client if you can't empathize with them. So being able to be in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, I think it's really, really strong.
Yeah. I want you guys to understand if you go start a business, you are starting a business to take care of clients. You just happen to do it with architecture. Every business that succeeds in the world exists to meet clients' needs. Every business that, go look at early interviews with Jeff Bezos, the current richest man in the world, whether he should or shouldn't be, different story. Go look at early interviews. Jeff, I'll send you a link to a great one. 22 years ago, 1998, I think he was in an interview with MSNBC, and you just look into his eyes as he's staring at the camera with passion, saying, what matters most is the experience our customers have buying with us. Nothing else matters. We're going to take care of our clients like nobody else. And look at what's happened to his business. Jeff Bezos founded a customer business that happens to do retail online and now all kinds of other stuff. Go found a client service business, a client experience business that happens to meet clients' needs. that require architecture. Make that your foundation. Architecture is just the vehicle to get you there.
That's an awesome way to sum it up. Anybody else? Big takeaway. No? All right. Ryan, really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. This is a great activity. I think everybody got a lot out of it. And they're on their way. They're starting to envision what their businesses could be. And I'm guessing that this process today is going to help them in that journey. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And like I said, my cell phone number, email, everything, I am at your disposal. If at any point during the semester or after you just want to brainstorm some ideas, I'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, thanks, guys. Bye.
Take care.